Okay, well, I'm going to take this print that I did. This is a digital illustration that I created, and I'm going to use some other medium like some pastels and probably some colored pencils over here because this thing got screwed up. Basically, I printed this out on a nice paper, and there was something wrong with the color profile, and so the colors really aren't as vibrant as I wanted them to be. And rather than just throwing this piece out because it is on a nice paper and it is my image, but I figured what I'd do is actually create some another layer, if you will, kind of hand embellish some of this. So this is me trying to recycle some stuff. So I'm going to take, let's see, I've got some different colors here that I'm going to use and lay on top of this. And this is just me kind of doing this on the fly. I haven't done this on this kind of paper before either. So there may be some kind of unexpected results. And so we'll see. One of the things I love about pastels is that it's very vibrant. I remember using pastels for the first time in high school, and I kind of fell in love with the vibrancy. Not so much with the chalk dust that seems to kind of get everywhere, but I'm sure you can see already this is certainly more vibrant than this here that's on the print. Now, this isn't the red that is even what I used when it came to doing this digitally. But again, I'm kind of deviating from my digital illustration and just having a little fun with this as well. This is a great opportunity if you have a piece of work that kind of went sideways on you, or you have a print that isn't really what it's supposed to be, or what you'd like it to be. Don't just throw it out. Use it as an opportunity to actually do something else with it. Experiment, play, because you can find some pretty cool, unexpected results when you do that. I have some colored pencils here. These are pro colored pencils. Love these. And then this, I don't remember the name brand of the pastels. Actually, let me see, I have this behind me. These, yeah, there's really no markings as far as what this is. Um, but anyway, it's going to serve me well here. So I'm going to just follow my intuition on this. One of the things that actually came up on a recent podcast recording that will be dropping next week on Creative Chats on my podcast is this idea of intuition and listening to our intuition as a creative person. And sometimes we find that hard to do because intuition has to do with trust. Um, and if we haven't really figured out how to trust ourselves when it comes to our work, we're going to be really timid, shy, and we're not going to show up ready to listen to that intuition. We're going to be doubting. We're going to have that doubt creep out in our work, how we approach it. It's going to hinder the choices we make. And just looking for a color here that I don't seem to have. Uh, so, really, the more that you listen to your intuition, the more that you say yes and take chances, even if you quote, screw it up because you're trying something, you're not really sure what the results are going to be, or there's some variable in the mix that you're afraid of. Um, the more you listen to yourself and figure out that you can trust yourself, even if things go sideways, even if there are parts that you're like, okay, that was unexpected. Maybe there's a good unexpected result. Maybe there's something that you can then learn and apply on purpose, as opposed to shying away from those things and not ever knowing because you didn't take the chance. And of course, I'm not saying to do this with all things that you're creating, but I do think that there are happy accidents, like our friend Bob Ross would say. And there are moments where, you won't know unless you try. And so I remember earlier on in my art making, I would get very intimidated by what I thought would be making mistakes. I really loved when people would do a lot of these splatter marks in traditional medium. Not to do this in a digital manner, it's a lot easier, so to speak, because you can just undo it, right? If you don't like what's happened, you can hit the undo button, and it's not going to destroy anything, right? It's a non-destructive type thing, and so it's a little safer. So I started to get used to the idea of these splatter marks by doing things in a digital way that I could undo if I didn't feel good about it. But then I started to carry that over into some more of the traditional mediums, paints and some more wet medium. And it really was paralyzing at first because I would do something and then I'm like, okay, I want to make some splatter marks because I think that kind of looks cool and it adds some energy and some life. But I was afraid that I would, quote, mess it up. And so I had to overcome this idea that whatever was going to happen was going to mess up what I had just done. I didn't want to um, go through all those, all the time of working on stuff, the supplies, everything else, and then, quote, mess something up because I didn't feel like it had the results that I wanted. But I had to learn to let go of that. And when I did that, there was a tremendous sense of freedom that came with it. It was really unbelievable when I finally started doing it. And did every time come out the way that I hoped it would? No. But I did start to see that I was looser. I was freer to express some things. I was able to achieve some results that I wouldn't have otherwise. And really, at the end of the day, that's really what you want to do is express yourself. You want to have a place where you can play, where you can, if need be, mess things up and see what happens. So if you don't have a practice of that, I would highly encourage you to try to get comfortable with messing things up, so to speak, with imperfections, with splatter marks, and with playing as you're creating. And of course, it depends on what it is that you're creating. I mean, if you're doing something that's more of a highly rendered photorealistic style, you're certainly not going to employ some of these techniques. But I do think it's a great exercise, even if you are usually doing things that are a little bit more controlled and concise, because this will give you a chance to loosen up. And you may not have that otherwise, because if everything you do is so tightly controlled, you may find that even your approach, your posture, the way you hold your materials may actually be suffering from you being so tightly controlled. So it's fun to have an exercise. It's fun to have something that you can do where the stakes are lower and you can play, you can experiment. And so that's exactly what I'm doing here. Even though I've created this Wee Herman art digitally, and I offer prints in my shop, and the original, if you will, is done. It's been done for a long time because it's digital. I wanted to take this and see what else I could do with it, see how I could hand embellish this and just have some fun with it. Again, the stakes are low because if I mess this up, it's not like a big deal, so to speak. But I still am curious about using some of these things together. See, like my hand just got in there and I'm smudging some things, but that's fine because that's all a part of this. And so the name of the game here is having fun, is experimenting. What happens if I take one thing and I introduce another? And so when you do that, when you're open to some of these things, you're able to get some results that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. And then if I know I take the pastel and I take a colored pencil and I start doing some things together, and I've never done that before, and I see that it achieves a certain result, then I can go back on purpose next time and go, I remember last time I was doing this thing, and now I know how to achieve that look or that result on purpose. Whereas before, I was just experimenting. I was just playing and seeing what would happen. And so have fun with it. Even some of these like splatter marks, I'm going to just embellish by throwing a little bit of this down. A lot of times too, I use wet medium, like some watercolor or even some acrylic. And in this case, honestly, some of my supplies are still tucked away because of my move and I haven't organized a whole lot of things. And so this is kind of the stuff that I could find readily available for this experience. And again, just testing things out, wanting to see what happens if. There's no right or wrong here. It's simply experimenting. And one of the great things that you can do with, if you do a lot of digital work like I do, is you can get prints made and then hand embellish certain parts of it. So even if, say, there's just one area that you want to hand embellish it and have something that's not just fully a print, but not something that's fully kind of an original piece, when you hand embellish it, it kind of does become an original piece because suddenly you have something that's very different. There's nothing else like it. And again, I'm just kind of playing around here. One of the things that I need to look into, and if you are watching and you know the answer to this, I would greatly appreciate it. But if there is any copyright-free music that I can actually play in the background, I have tried to do that in the past, and what I thought was copyright-free ended up being copyright material, and the powers that be at all the social media platforms ended up removing stuff. And I was like, that's not great. I just went through all that, and now I have the final product is removed. And I don't want to go through that again. So if you know of a good choice for some music that I can do in the background that won't get me in trouble, I'd greatly appreciate that. This is a charcoal pencil, and so it's fun to pull this little string and take the paper off and get some more. Sometimes the string gets in the way. If you have a scissor or an X-Acto blade, you can kind of chop that off, but just make sure you don't chop it too close to the edge, because otherwise you'll never be able to get that string again. It'll be very difficult to pull. I think I'm kind of almost done here. Again, the purpose of this was really just to come on and play a little bit. And I didn't really have a desired outcome. see if I can manage this. Kind of. It's a little thick, but Pee-wee. This is when I just start doing, all right, just do whatever. Have some fun with it. And one of the other things that I would sometimes do would be to take some other things like these Posca acrylic paint markers. These are great to do some more. This might be a little too thick. Well, I guess it's okay. But if you want to hit certain areas, I want to be careful that I don't start getting too controlled with things, because the point of this was to loosen up. But sometimes little areas make a big difference. I mean, you can probably see it already. You don't want to go too crazy because you can overdo it for sure. Do my signature, even though it's some pastel on paint marker. Don't want to screw that up too much. I think that's good. I think that's done. And again, sometimes that's what it's about too, is learning to trust yourself to go, I think this is what looks like it's done to me. And sometimes you also need to let something sit and rest for a bit. And you want to see what happens if you let it rest for a little bit and then you come back to it and you maybe do another little area, a little touch up, maybe you get another little spark of inspiration. It is very easy to overwork something and kill it because you worked it to death and you've gone beyond that point at which it was technically done. But you're the one, remember, that's in control. You're the one who's calling the shots. So learn to trust your instincts. And the only way that you do that is by showing up and doing the work and doing it again and doing it again and doing it again. Listening to that voice inside of you that says, I want to try this. I want to do this. I think it's done. You may not be 100% all the time. I don't think anybody is. But certainly the more that you do it, the more you'll kind of just know intuitively when you feel like something is finished, when you feel like you can trust yourself for color choices, for some other choices. Again, it's all about showing up. It's about doing the work. And so hope you guys have enjoyed this. Again, this was kind of a little spontaneous thing that I figured I would do. I'm also testing out some software from Riverside that I have subscribed to that allows me to do something like this. And so my hope is to do more of these things in the future. And if you've enjoyed this, leave me a comment, shoot me a message, let me know, because I can certainly do some more live art demonstrations, show you some more of my tools and some of my methods, whether that's digital, whether that's more analog, if you will, like this stuff. I'll be doing some of that stuff along with some more of the kind of creative just thoughts that I have that I want to share with you as a creator. And even as just maybe someone who doesn't do this stuff and you're just curious, I love sharing this so that maybe it doesn't seem so intimidating to you. Grab something, go create something. That's what I tell people all the time, because when you create, we all win. So enjoy. And if anybody's interested in actually purchasing this Pee-wee art, you can reach out to me. I certainly would entertain sending this to someone, and I would love to sell it to somebody who actually saw this too, because then you can actually have the benefit of knowing how it was created and what went into it. So there's a little bit more of a connection there. Well, I hope you guys have an awesome night. And again, any questions, any comments, leave them for me, and certainly will answer any questions you may have. Have a good night.